By the time the public began asking who Penelope Knatchbull really was to Prince Philip, the palace had already lived with the answer for years. She was not an occasional guest or a passing name on a social list. She appeared repeatedly at carriage-driving events, country weekends, family gatherings, and private occasions where invitations were never accidental. The striking part was not that Philip had a close female friend. It was the ease between them, the consistency of her presence, and the fact that the palace never seemed determined to push her away. To understand why Penny became so important, it is necessary to understand Philip. He had been born into rank but not into stability. His childhood was shaped by separation, family upheaval, and uncertainty. By the time he married Princess Elizabeth, he was energetic, practical, sharp-minded, and deeply independent. He loved movement competition, engineering, travel horses, and direct conversation. He had little patience for flattery or emotional display. When Elizabeth became queen, close to the center of power, yet the crown would never be his. He had to be essential and secondary at the same time. Rather than retreat, he filled his life with public work, sport projects, and practical interests. He respected people who were capable, discreet, and strong enough to keep pace with him. Penelope Eastwood possessed those qualities. She was born into wealth, but not into one of Britain's oldest noble families. She learned how to move through elite society without appearing desperate for approval. She was calm, observant, attractive, and socially intelligent. She did not enter rooms demanding attention. She knew how to be present without becoming a disturbance, a quality of enormous value inside royal circles. Her life changed when she met Norton Knatchbull, Lord Romsey. Norton was the grandson of Lord Mountbatten, Prince Philip's uncle mentor and one of the most influential figures in the wider royal family. When Penny married Norton in 1979, she did not simply marry a titled man. She entered one of the families most closely tied to Philip and the Queen. The timing was devastating. Only weeks before the wedding, Lord Mountbatten was assassinated in a bombing carried out by the Irish Republican Army. Norton's younger brother Nicholas was also killed. He was only 14 years old. The wedding went ahead under the weight of grief. Penny entered the Mountbatten family at a moment when celebration and catastrophe stood side by side. From the beginning, she was required to adapt, endure, and help a wounded family continue. Broadlands, the Mountbatten family estate, was filled with royal memory. The Queen and Philip had spent part of their honeymoon there. Penny learned the house, its customs, and its expectations. Over time, she was no outsider trying to force her way into royal life. She belonged through marriage, family loyalty, and years of discretion. The turning point came in 1991. Penny and Norton had 3 children. Their youngest daughter, Leonora, died from kidney cancer at the age of 5. The death of a child does not simply create sadness. It changes the structure of a family. It can alter a marriage, a home, and the identity of every person left behind. After Leonora's death, Penny was a woman trying to survive a loss that could never be repaired. Philip understood grief in his own unsentimental way. His life had also been marked by separation and early death. He was not the kind of man who responded to pain with long speeches. His instinct was practical. Keep moving, find a task, demand concentration. Give the body something difficult to do while the mind slowly learns how to endure. After Leonora's death, Philip encouraged Penny to take up carriage driving. This was not a casual hobby to him. After years of polo, carriage driving became one of his greatest passions. It required control, courage, technical knowledge, concentration, and fast judgment. Philip studied equipment, horses' routes, and technique. He expected anyone he taught to show discipline and commitment. Penny did exactly that. She learned, listened, trained, and accepted correction. She did not pretend to be helpless in order to flatter him, for her carriage driving created structure at a time when grief had destroyed the old rhythm of life. It gave her a reason to leave the house, master a demanding skill, and build something that belonged to her future rather than to the tragedy of her past. For Philip, teaching Penny offered something equally valuable. He was surrounded by people willing to praise him and agree with him. What he valued more was genuine ability. Penny could keep pace. She understood his direct manner and did not require constant reassurance. Their time together took place outdoors, around horses' weather equipment and practical decisions. It was a setting in which Philip felt more natural than he often did inside formal rooms. That shared world became the foundation of their closeness. Their bond did not begin with a declaration or a dramatic romantic scene. It developed through repetition. One lesson became many. One afternoon became a routine. The routine became an expectation. People noticed that Penny was frequently present wherever Philip could relax and become less ceremonial. Eventually, the surprise was not that she appeared. The surprise was when she did not. Their age difference was more than 3 decades. Some people saw the connection as paternal, based on instruction and family loyalty. Others believed the emotional attachment was too strong to be explained so simply. Yet the file provides no direct proof of a sexual relationship. There was no confession, no confirmed secret residence, and no decisive evidence. What existed in plain sight was sustained companionship. This ambiguity made the relationship fascinating. The public prefers labels such as wife-mistress, friend, confidant, or relative. Philip and Penny never fitted neatly into one category. She was a friend, a family connection, a pupil, a sporting companion, and one of the people he repeatedly chose to see. The exact boundary remained private. The palace noticed. Royal households are skilled at creating distance when someone is considered dangerous. Invitations can disappear. Timetables can change. Seating plans can be adjusted. A person can be removed without any public confrontation. None of that happened to Penny. Her position became stronger rather than weaker. There were practical reasons. Penny came from the correct social world. She had married into a family already trusted by the Queen and Philip. She did not sell stories, seek publicity, or use her access to build celebrity. She did not challenge the Queen's official position or demand recognition. She remained composed and allowed the relationship to exist without public explanation. The Queen's private feelings cannot be known with certainty. The file provides no direct statement from Elizabeth, confirming what she believed. However, Penny was not treated as an unacceptable threat. Elizabeth had been married to Philip for decades. She understood his restlessness, his need for activity, and his preference for companions who shared his interests. She also understood the difference between a chaotic scandal and a stable attachment that did not damage the institution. The early 1990s were already a difficult period for the monarchy. Charles and Diana were breaking apart in public. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson had separated. Private conflict was becoming tabloid spectacle. Philip disliked emotional drama, and Penny represented the opposite. She was controlled, practical, quiet, and familiar with the rules of aristocratic life. She knew how to carry pain without turning it into a public campaign. By the middle of the 1990s, their companionship had become an open secret. Newspapers approached the subject carefully because there was no single piece of evidence strong enough to define it. Instead, there was a pattern. Penny was invited. Penny was present. Penny was comfortable around Philip. Philip appeared lighter and more relaxed around her. Staff relatives, friends, and courtiers understood that she mattered. After Diana's death in 1997, public attitudes toward the royal family changed. The monarchy was no longer viewed as an institution whose private life should remain unquestioned. Every relationship was examined more aggressively. Yet Philip and Penny did not retreat from one another. Their continued ease suggested that the family had accepted the relationship long before outside scrutiny intensified. By the late 1990s, Penny was woven into Philip's private world. If carriage driving was involved, she was likely nearby. If there was a country weekend where Philip could escape ceremony, her name often appeared. People reportedly joked that when guest lists were discussed, one final name would be added as a matter of course. And Penny. As Philip grew older, the relationship became more important. Age narrowed his world. Friends died. Physical energy declined. Public duties became more tiring. A younger Philip had sustained himself through travel work, sport, and constant movement. An older Philip increasingly depended on familiarity, loyalty, and people who knew him beyond ceremony. Penny offered continuity. She did not treat him as a fragile old man. She did not flatter him or speak as if age had reduced his intelligence. She understood his impatience and rough humor. She allowed him to remain recognizable to himself. For a man who had built his identity around energy and usefulness, that was a rare gift. In 2005, Norton's father died, and Norton inherited the family title. Penny became the Countess Mountbatten of Burma. The new title strengthened her formal position, but her emotional significance to Philip had been established long before. By then, she was one of the few people whose presence in royal settings seemed natural rather than arranged. When Philip announced his retirement from public duties in 2017, he was in his mid-90s. Retirement removed much of the official schedule that had once hidden the difference between required company and chosen company. Without ceremonies, speeches, military events, and public engagements, the people who remained close were there because Philip wanted them there. Penny remained. That fact carried more meaning than any label. She was no longer present because of one sporting season, one family crisis, or one social obligation. She had become part of the smaller circle that mattered when duty began to fall away. Philip spent increasing time at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate. The house offered him a simpler life with fewer formalities. He could read, walk, paint, cook, and organize his days with greater freedom. It suited the man beneath the title. Penny also belonged naturally in that rural world. She understood horses, weather dogs, routine, and country life. Penny's place in that final phase was a result of constancy. She had entered the Mountbatten family in 1979 during violent loss. She had suffered the death of her daughter in 1991. She had learned carriage driving under Philip's guidance. She remained close through the scandals of the 1990s, Diana's death in 1997, her new title in 2005, and Philip's retirement in 2017. Across those decades, she did not publicly define the relationship for him. She did not force the Queen, the palace, or the press to accept a dramatic version of events. She simply remained. That restraint was one of the reasons the bond survived. There is no responsible basis for declaring with certainty the evidence in the file supports a more complex conclusion. She was one of the most significant chosen companions of his later life. Their relationship was emotionally important, highly visible within royal circles, and accepted by the palace in practice, even if never formally explained. Its power came from repetition, trust, shared temperament, and timing. Philip entered Penny's life after an unbearable loss and gave her a difficult skill to master. Penny entered his later life as someone who could meet him without fear, flattery, or excessive emotion. He respected her strength. She understood his nature. Neither seemed to require a performance from the other. That may be why the relationship proved stronger than gossip. Scandal depends on exposure. Their bond depended on habit. Scandal burns quickly. Habit becomes architecture. By the time the public noticed how often Penelope Knatchbull appeared beside Prince Philip, she was already part of the structure of his private world. The palace knew because royal households always know who truly matters. They see which names remain on the guest list, which seats are quietly saved, which absences change the atmosphere, and which people a senior royal continues to choose when duty no longer requires anything from him. Penny was one of those people. Whatever private word Philip used for her, she was not fleeting, accidental, or merely another woman in the wider royal circle. She was a trusted companion, formed by grief, strengthened through carriage driving, protected by discretion, and sustained through decades of change. In the end, the most revealing fact was not a hidden confession or a dramatic photograph. It was that she stayed. Through family tragedy, royal scandal, aging retirement, and the narrowing of Philip's world, she stayed. The palace, rather than removing her, quietly made room.